think I'm entitled?
You want answers!
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I want to thank the countries that helped me put this together. Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and so many others. So many people fought so hard. This is a big day. We'll see how it all turns out. We have to get the final word down in concrete. Very importantly, I look forward to having the hostages come home to their parents and having some of the hostages, unfortunately, you know the condition they're in, come home likewise to their parents because their parents wanted them just as much as though that young man or young woman were alive. So I just want to let you know that this is a very special day, maybe unprecedented in many ways. It is unprecedented, but thank you all, and thank you all to those great countries that helped. We were given a tremendous amount of help. Everybody was unified in wanting this war to end and seeing peace in the Middle East.
And you know what? When word came out that there had been, and it's still not officially signed yet, it will happen over this weekend, and President Trump will be going to Egypt for that signing. When the word first broke last night, in the streets of Jerusalem, young men and women out in the streets shouting and celebrating, understandably, and older citizens as well. And in Palestine, young men in particular in the streets celebrating and shouting, and thank God it's over. I don't know if they were members of Hamas or they were some of the Palestinians being held as human shields for Hamas, but they knew that they were facing certain death if this didn't come to an end soon. But there is word from Netanyahu implying that remains of some hostages may not be returned. All of them are supposed to be returned. Exactly why they may not be is still a little unclear. Maybe they're got buried somewhere and they don't know where, they can't find them. It's a lot of things still to be figured out. But this is a major moment. And, of course, all the talk about the Nobel Peace Prize for Trump, but it's already been decided. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee said, we made the decision last Monday. They could see the writing on the wall. They were supposed to make the announcement this coming Friday. They said, we made the decision last Monday. We just hadn't announced it. I want to get into that because I want to tell you something. I think that the woman that is getting it has been fighting for democracy in Venezuela, and I don't doubt any of her accomplishments. But I think it's, again, just an effort to get around giving anything like that to Trump. Here's part of the rationale we've been told. This award is for events of last year, not this year. This is October. They always announce the Nobel Peace Prize in October. I have a preliminary exam of when they have given what to whom. And I'm going to tell you right now, without double-checking my source, I'll be the first to admit, I haven't found out what I really want yet. I think when Obama got his, and it was supposedly for the preceding year then, when it was announced, he'd been in office only since January, the same year they gave it to him. So you don't think they're playing politics again? It is at a point now that the value of the Nobel Peace Prize is tarnished. It was when they gave it to Obama, but now they're stepping around, we don't want to get Trump. Trump is not demanding, not wanting. In fact, he's already said, I don't care about that. I just want to bring an end to the war. That's not what the left wants to hear. They want to hear him cry It's not fair. He's not going to do it. I'll do it because it is not fair. Hey, thanks for joining us. Hour number 1, Larry Connors USA. We are here every Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. And when we're on the air, we are streaming video right now. While you're listening, you could pull up NewsTalkSTL Rumble, Facebook or Twitter, Larry Connors USA Rumble or Facebook, and you will see the program in action. I encourage you to do it. A lot of folks enjoy watching it. I appreciate it. And also, if you miss any part of the program because you can't stay with us the entire 2 hours, you go back to NewsTalkSTL for podcast, LarryConnorsUSA.com, Larry Connors USA Facebook. Everything goes up as a podcast later, so you can pull it up and listen then. And when you do it then, I ask one favor, please. Push share. Send it to others of like mind, or even those who hate you and your view of Trump and MAGA and Make America Great. Especially those who hate Larry Connors. Send it to them. I appreciate that. With Larry Connors USA, you get news, analysis, opinion, and education. Before we complete each hour, you're going to walk away with more knowledge than you have when we begin. I promise you that. Hold me to it. To give you a preview of what's coming up in our next hour, what can we do to police internet hate speech without interfering with the First Amendment? I got a guest that's been working on such a possibility. I want to hear also, just like you, how you're going to do that. And later in this hour, a breakdown of Antifa funding. Who's sending the money in? Oh, we got one name in front of us all the time, George Soros and his Open Society. But that's not the only one. And if you were listening yesterday, we had a reporter in Portland say she was outside one of the protest situations outside the detention center, and she saw people coming and going from a nearby house, maybe a block away. They were using that house for lodging, meals, showers, get a little sleep, then go back out on the streets. Who's paying for that and making that available? We'll get into that coming up. Well, let's go back to President Trump dealing now with the issue, exactly what we're discussing, Antifa and who's funding it.
The White House alleges that Democrats and the mainstream media are covering up the scope of left-wing violence and how organized it is. They made the case that attacks on federal officers, in some cases, were carried out by terrorists with heavy machinery, coordinated planning, funding, and an agenda. Democrats claim it's overblown and an excuse to unleash the U.S. military on Americans.
We have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country.
The White House summoning the White House press corps for a roundtable with independent journalists to scold mainstream media over coverage of a loosely defined group of violent left-wing agitators known as Antifa, recently designated a terrorist organization by the Trump administration.
This is a call out to corporate media who has completely ignored this story or has falsely reported on it. This is nothing short other than a sustained attack on the United States, which is being supported by Democratic elected officials.
That was echoed by the Secretary of Homeland Security.
The networks have not really focused on what this is. Antifa is just as sophisticated as MS-13, as TDA, as ISIS, as Hezbollah, as Hamas, as all of them.
Laying out plans to dismantle the group's funding.
We're going to be very threatening to them. Probably some of the people I know, some of the people I dine with. But if they do, they're in deep trouble.
And prosecute its members.
These thugs. We saw what's happening in Portland and Chicago, and you saw what happened in Dallas. No longer. This is not activism. It's anarchy.
It is anarchy. Pam Bondi, they're with the president. It is anarchy because they're not interested in peace. They want to make it appear that the ICE agents are Gestapo troops. They've already made that very clear. I'm talking about how everybody is running around fearful. You have nothing to fear if you're not doing anything wrong. Stephen Miller of the National Guard, point Stephen Miller, White House advisor.
There are also many other options the president has to deploy federal resources and assets out of the U.S. military to Portland. But I was making the point that under federal law, Section Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has the authority anytime he believes federal resources are insufficient to federalize the National Guard to carry out a mission necessary for public safety. So it's important to understand that in Portland, ICE officers have been subjected to over 100 nights of terrorist assault, doxing, murder threats, violent attack, and every other means imaginable to try to overturn the results of the last election through violence. The most important point I want to make today is that the number 1 and 2 items in the GOP platform in 2024 were to turn back the border invasion and carry out the largest deportation program in American history.
And those who say he does not have authority to do all of this, he does. And in fact, coming up, we're going to talk, as I said earlier, giving you more background on use of the National Guard by other presidents, including Democrat presidents. And I will tell you right now, there were no Democrats out there crying, you can't do that, except in a couple of cases, because they did not like what he was doing regarding integrating Southern schools, where the Democrats had the Klan. Don't forget, the Democrats are the one who stood in the door, did not want black students in white schools. Do not forget that. There was a CNN host interviewing Stephen Miller, and he was looking to punch him out. But Miller, he's ready, because the CNN host started with a lie, and he walked right into a knockout.
Is potentially a problem in the future for Republicans if a Democratic president someday calls the National Guard to a red state over what they see as open rebellion, but is what amounts to a demonstration that gets rowdy. I mean, is that not a fear of yours?
They're posting pictures of their kids because it's a demonstration, and they have a sniper on top of a building firing a high-caliber rifle at a nice facility because it's a demonstration, and they are engaged in vehicle ramming attacks.
But the National Guard isn't being sent to Texas. The National Guard isn't being sent to Dallas, where that sniper was.
Because the Dallas Police Department and the governor of Texas, well, you walked right into that one,
oh boy,
have responded to every call for assistance and help. They gave a stand-down order in Chicago, and they gave a stand-down order in Portland. Do you realize that there's 11,000 federal law enforcement officers in Oregon? That's larger than the size of the FBI. Local and state police are resourced to deal with this kind of riotous assembly, but they have refused. They've been given a stand-down order. So
they've arrested some 70 people since June. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They refute what you're saying outright.
We literally have the 911 audio of the stand-down order in Chicago, and we have documented inside of DHS every single unresponded to 911 call over the recent weeks and months.
Yeah. And he walked right into that one, like Miller said. You set yourself up. Chicago police, we know that radio dispatch call. We played it numerous times, telling the officers, stand down. We're not going to help them. This is another law enforcement agency calling for assistance. And then in Portland, the head of the union of Portland Police says, we should be involved in helping ICE, but we're not allowed to. The National Guard is a unique component of the U.S. military. This is according to the History Channel, so there's your source if you want to check it. It's been activated, of course, by state governments to keep peace, restore order, usually natural disasters, civil unrest. But what about presidents? There was no such National Guard during the Civil War, but when it broke out in 1861, Lincoln activated state militias of the Union to fight the Confederacy states. According to the U.S. Constitution, Congress has the power to call forth a militia to execute the laws of the Union. The Militia Acts of 1792 authorized the president to federalize state militias to stop insurrections and enforce federal law. George Washington was the first to do it, dealing with the militia in Pennsylvania and surrounding states, suppressing the Whiskey Rebellion. Lincoln used the same thing during the Civil War. 1954, you had the Little Rock Nine black students chosen to integrate Central High. And on that day, the Arkansas governor called in the Arkansas National Guard to block the students. Well, that quickly went to Dwight Eisenhower. He deployed 1,200 Army troops to Little Rock and put them in charge of the Arkansas National Guard. There's where you had Democrats complaining. 1965, LBJ clashing with Governor Wallace. He also federalized Alabama's National Guard troops to protect the lives of civil rights activists, including Martin Luther King. And the hundreds in the march, 3-day march from Selma to Montgomery. The Detroit Uprising in 1967. Again, the National Guard brought. Now, we don't have anything as vicious right now as going on with Detroit or some of the prior cases I mentioned. But ICE agents are being attacked on a nightly basis. In Portland, more than 100 nights straight. And when they call for help, no one is coming from the local police. And in Chicago, when they call for help, they're told to stand down. Our officers aren't coming. But they would have you believe all of this has happened, and Trump is violating the Constitution, bringing the National Guard in. I just went through 5-6 presidents there for you. No, I'm not done. I can give you more. Jimmy Carter activated them to deal with the refugee crisis out of Cuba. Mariana Boatlift, remember that? The 1992 L.A. riots, when Rodney King was beat up, the video spread everywhere. Again, city riots for 3 days. George H.W. Bush, president, invoked the act and began sending in the National Guard and other teams. We have not seen anything that vicious on the streets yet. But Antifa and all these clashes with the ICE facilities, and now the city of Chicago wants the detention center in Chicago take down your security fence around your perimeter. That's just going to expose more people to violence. Is there any sense there? No. And who's paying for these activities? We'll get into that. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Another day must be another roofer in town. And John Beal and I were talking. He said, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it. And we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. The Oak Street Inn and Lounge has some great news. The Speakeasy will now be open on Sundays, starting at 2. Open to the public. Great for those in the industry who want to enjoy a Sunday fun day. Plus, enjoy sushi and cocktails. What more could you want? You want to make sure you get the code. And how do you get the code to the Speakeasy? You go to the Facebook, Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. I'll see you at Oak Street Inn and Lounge in Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL.
I can feel my face when I'm with you. But I love it. And I know she'll be the death of me. At least we'll both be numb. And she'll always get the best of me. The worst is yet to come. All the misery was necessary when we're deep in love. Yes, I know.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
The party of open borders, transgender for everybody. Lawlessness in our streets are shutting down the government in an effort to appease the radical left. These Democrats are coordinating their strategy with outside leftist groups and are demanding nearly $1.5 trillion in spending for an agenda that includes healthcare for illegal aliens and much, much more. Democrats for years have railed against government shutdowns, claiming a shutdown would mean much chaos and pain and needless heartache for the American people. Democrats are out of control, and you know who it hurts?
You, everyday people, and the most vulnerable. Seniors, veterans, working families, hungry kids, y'all.
Tell Congress to avoid the Democrat-led government shutdown.
That is an effort, obviously, to try to get the government back on track. And it is correct. The Democrats have put this in play. It is a Chuck Schumer shutdown, and they know it, and it's weighing on them. They're trying to shift the blame, obviously, to Republicans. But that's a lie. It's a flat-out lie. But, of course, if it's said by the Democrats, and they got enough people around supporting them, well, then it will appear to be a fact. I'm looking at some of the reasons they're trying to say this is why we need to make sure the Republicans come around and do it our way. The Republicans did. They made it very clear. They made a proposal, and at least have been talked about, that we are willing to go ahead and let you have your Obamacare Act for one more year. It's supposed to expire. We'll let it go one more year. It's going to cost us money, but we'll compromise on that, let you have that. But you're not going to get all the trillion that's going to be spent on public broadcasting systems, transitional surgery, even in foreign country. Why the hell would we? But, of course, what you've got with these guys right now, they just want to do anything they can to disrupt our government and put all the blame upon Trump and his company. And by company, I mean those around him, obviously, not his corporation. Just in case some of you didn't get the idea there. But I also want to know, and you should want to know, who is funding all these Antifa groups? How do they suddenly show up at an event in a mass and there's signs pre-printed waiting for them? Who's paying for those? Who's paying for their transportation and lodging? I saw a piece of video the other day. A reporter, quote, independent journalist, was going around and said, we're going to go over there and find out all these folks are gathering. You can see the pile of signs waiting behind them. I'm going to go over and ask who's paying for it, how they're getting paid, what they're getting paid. And he went over there and he's got a microphone and a camera. I mean, and immediately they just, they turn their head. They won't even be seen. One woman quickly covered her face. And when he's asking, just tell me who's paying for you guys to be here, you are getting paid, right? Where are you staying while you're here? Who made the signs for you? They would not answer a single question. You know why? Because they're bought and paid for by the hardcore left. Seamus Bruner, I tried to get booked for today, but he's got so many things going on right now. He is Director of Research at the Government Accountability Institute, and he had just released yesterday that they got more evidence that left-wing funders such as billionaire Neville Roy Singham are behind these left-wing Antifa riots and protests. In fact, during a roundtable on Antifa with President Trump, Bruner explained that we'd been following a trail of money, followed it to the top of what they call the Protest Industrial Complex, Riot Incorporated. That's what they're calling it. Seamus Bruner said the so-called Riot Incorporated is made up of different divisions and dozens of radical organizations getting millions of dollars from this group. It's not clear to me if that truly is their title, Riot Incorporated, or Seamus named it. But it is say inside it, we've got a network of NGOs, non-government operations. Remember, they showed up at the border when all the illegals were coming across. And I questioned then, how many of them are taking money from the government and putting it into their pockets or into activities against our nation? They're not spending it on the illegals coming across other than to bust them into the center of the nation. What Seamus Bruner said, we found a network of NGOs, not just the Soros Network, the Open Society Network, others, the Arabella Funding Network, the Tides Funding Network, Neville Roy Singham and his network, all foreign cash, and it's also big-wing, left-wing funders, some who are not citizens of this country. In fact, he made a note to say left-wing funders were pouring money into this entire ecosystem. I got to tell you, if foreign money is coming in to fund these guys and their activities and their chaos, I call that an act of war. And I think we need to track them down and shut them down big time. But here's the way they do this. It's a maze. It is a maze. They're all scattered here and there. They have no central contract and central point, be it the Open Society or Riot Incorporated or whatever. They are kind of independent with occasional linkage. You get them all linked up, well, then you've got a conspiracy and you've got RICO charges immediately. They're very good about knowing how to work around it because they've got lawyers who make sure they're protected. I didn't mean to sound that bad about lawyers. I'm not trying to put it on your back, but that's what they're doing. Seamus Bruner continued to share, quote, 3 money facts, explaining exactly what I just said. There are many divisions. In other words, it's hard to pin any one group down. They've got a PR division, no surprise there, marketing division, yeah, and a well-funded legal division. There are your lawyers. He said, number 2, we've identified dozens of radical organizations, not just the decentralized Antifa, but dozens of radical groups that have received more than $100 million from the Riot Incorporated investors. These would be the lawyer groups. These would be the groups that advocate for calling good, honest Americans fascist. He said, I think the most shocking thing is we found that more than, are you listening? Are you listening? We found that more than 100 million U.S. tax dollars went into these networks, including at least 4 million groups directly to the groups themselves I just named. Bruner bringing up Singham deals with records from the United Kingdom. Singham has resigned a group he founded in 1993, says he did anyway, called ThoughtWorks Incorporated. But Seamus Bruner says there's testimony, evidence from the Chinese government records that show otherwise. It showed that he sold and orchestrated the sale of his property in his relationship with ThoughtWorks Incorporated in 1993 and became a software powerhouse. $785 million going to London-based firms. Then they have their own LinkedIn profile. He's retired from that as well. But Chinese government records suggesting Singham is a corporate officer still on the ThoughtWorks Chinese subsidiary. And these records are from the National Enterprise Credit Reporting System, China's corporate registry. It's not pulled out of thin air. They're documented. And other documents, including trade show profiles, help wanted ads, listed Singham as ThoughtWorks Beijing's official contact back as far as 2021. Now, back in June, Singham was set to testify before a congressional committee funding radical, anti-Israel, and Marxist groups. In an article written by Bruner back in June, he detailed how this group kind of got around getting him on the stand. Some of these are Americans working with foreign adversaries. Some of them are just, well, let's go out and riot today and cause chaos. They have no agenda other than to attack. They have no offering in place. And if it weren't for innocent people caught in the middle, I'd say back out, let them all out, let them run through their communities. See how fast they start calling out for help. Coming up, a candidate to be a governor will not answer if she would let men into women's dressing rooms.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
For 100 years, Tom Shaw Realtor is helping folks buy or sell, but also helping the community. He wanted this paid commercial to promote the Tom Shaw Walk for Alzheimer's, Sunday, October 12. More details at shawrealtors.com. So I hear an out-of-towner asking someone, where's the best place to eat? Before they could respond, I said, Cafe Napoli. Where? Well, I said, Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, and then you got Napoli Kirkwood, plus you got Napoli Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. You'll find Napoli everywhere. It's not too early to book a party and buy gift cards. Cafe Napoli. Listen up. The offer St. Louis can't stop talking about being held over by popular demand. Right now, renewal by Anderson. Buy any window or door, get the next one 50% off. Plus, you might get 0 interest, no payments for 18 months. This is Renewal by Anderson, the full-service window and door replacement division of Anderson. That's a name you've trusted more than 122 years. Our exclusive FiberX frames, 200% stronger than vinyl. And remember, Anderson products increase your home's value by at least 15%. So make sure you take advantage of the offer while it's still being held over. Schedule your complimentary consultation at rbastl.com. 877-WINDOWS. 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson. This is award-winning quality, stronger windows, smarter investment.
This is News Talk STL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
This is Ms. Spanberger's time. I have a follow-up question for Ms. Spanberger. Would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy requiring boys and girls to use bathrooms aligning with their biological sex? You have 30 seconds.
My priority would be to ensure that local communities, importantly parents and teachers and educators, are able to work together to meet the unique needs of each school and each community. And that is important. And I say that as a mother of 3 daughters in Virginia public schools, and as someone who used to investigate crimes against children. The way that we keep our children safe is by ensuring they are safe in schools, which includes funding law enforcement and public safety.
But Ms. Spanberger, the question was, would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy requiring boys and girls to use bathrooms aligning with their biological sex? You have 15 seconds to clarify that question.
Yes. And my answer is that in each local community, decisions should be made between parents and educators and teachers in each community. It shouldn't be dictated by politicians.
It's a yes or no question. Could we play that last one again? I want that last part again. We're the moderator in this debate. This is a debate between Abigail Spanberger, former Congresswoman, Democrat nominee for governor in Virginia, and she's dealing with Republican candidate, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears. But you're not going to get the answer.
Would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy?
Stop it right there. Would you rescind it? Would you rescind it? That's all. Would you rescind it? Yes, no. Yes, no. Yes, no. You're not going to get either.
And my answer is that in each local community, decisions should be made between parents and educators and teachers in each community. It shouldn't be dictated by politicians.
I love the fact that Winsome Earl Sears joined in and said, you clearly would not do that. Oh, she went on saying, I have 3 daughters, and I believe we should protect them. But you would not be doing that. She was asked directly by her GOP opponent, are you going to change clothing in a gym where men are nude? Asking her, would you do that? And she might. She's an adult. But kids and teenagers in their classes are not yet adults. And even when they're in college sports, do they want that? There was one case the other day, and I put it aside and I can't find it. I have multiple books, volumes of books. You should come see my collection sometime. And it got lost somewhere in there. This man who wants to play on a volleyball team for girls, he walks through the changing room while the girls are trying to kind of block each other, hide behind towels being held around. He walks through absolutely naked with an erection. If one of my girls was in that locker room, I'd go in there and that would become a very limp member forever. You know what I mean? Yeah. Nude men in locker rooms. And this woman who is a former congresswoman and said, I used to prosecute sex crimes. Well, you're not doing it this time, are you? Because you've got to have, quote, the left. You need that left vote to support you. That's the only way you're going to beat your candidate. She's just not going to get there. But so what she's going to do is just play, like we said yesterday, back to the Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope. And keep in mind, she's dealing with Republican candidate Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears for Virginia. Very astute, very good, and very fair and holding to the law and protection of women and children. Abigail Spanberger, who won't even answer, was also asked at one point during the debate. The moderator asked her, "We want to clarify what you're saying is of right now, you still endorse Jay Jones as Attorney General." Jay Jones had a commentary on the other day, and I've told you about on this program. He is the Democrat Attorney General candidate, and text messages got revealed from a couple of years ago when he talked about one of his Republican lawmaker opponents. 2 bullets to the head would be good for him, and while you're at it, kill his children. They can die in their mother's arms. And then when those texts are made public, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. You do not get away with saying sorry, and you did only because you got caught. And to that extent, again, they were asking Spanberger, as of now, do you still endorse Jay Jones as Attorney General? Because she has. They make appearances together, holding hands. I'm endorsing this guy who said 2 bullets in the back of the head of another legislator and kill his children. And Spanberger's answer again, get ready on the choo-choo train. Around and around it goes. I'm saying, as of now, it's up to every voter to make their own individual decision. Again, no answer. So you've already given your support for him and your endorsement. She continued, I am running for governor. I'm accountable for the words I say, for the acts I take, for the policies I have put out. I'm responsible for the policies I put out and the work I will endeavor to do tirelessly for the people. And she repeated, said, I have said this before. When the texts were made public, I condemned the rhetoric. But yet you're still endorsing the man who said them. You don't see any disconnect there? Train derailment, that's what we've got. Rutgers University Dateline, stepping forward to defend a professor who signed an online petition that wants to disband Turning Point USA chapter from campus. Yeah. Trying to make Charlie Kirk's valued legacy disappear, get it off the Rutgers campus. Change.org pushing this online petition. And they do it on the basic, say that the conservative group at Turning Point USA promotes hate speech, inciting violence against our community. Where? I have told you before, if you consider Charlie Kirk was preaching hate when he preached for the Bible and says the Bible says man shall not lay with man and that children in the womb are still live, they should not be aborted. If you think that's hate speech, how does that compare to what the others are spewing? 2 bullets in the back of the head of my political opponent and his children. The associate professor of religion at Rutgers signed the petition to boot Turning Point USA. Spokesman for the school said, we are committed to providing a secure environment to learn, teach, work, and research where all members of our community can share their opinions without fear of intimidation or harassment. Rutgers is committed to upholding rights of students and faculty to free speech. No, you're not. No, you're not. And scientific, or rather academic freedom. The university does not comment on specific personnel or student conduct manners. That is the old throwout they use every time. I used to get so PO'd at the Illinois Child Protection Services when a child would be beaten to death. And we're making inquiries while I was a reporter for a TV station. We're trying to find out this child was held by these people and numerous reports that they were being abused. What do you do? What did you do to find out what's going on? Oh, we can't talk about that. It's a privacy matter involving a child. The child is dead. You're not going to protect them anymore. So Rutgers is doing the dance around, too, trying to say, well, we consider Turning Point, not the university, but the organization pushing it, saying the petition to disband Turning Point is necessary. Turning Point chapter president said, actually, their decision to disband us is blatantly defamatory. Accusations that we're inciting violence and making threats are complete lies. Absolutely. Complete lies. There's a leftist comedian that made a statement regarding Trump not getting the Nobel Peace Prize. And he actually said Trump should get, yeah, he did. He said Trump should get the prize. The audience reaction? That story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, and don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open, Napoli Kirkwood.
This is Larry Connors, USA. Larry Connors, USA.
This is more than Gaza. This is peace in the Middle East, and it's an incredible thing.
Over in Gaza, Palestinian men and boys ran into the streets, clapping and cheering. In Israel, a similar scene of joy.
That's right. A peace deal has been reached between Israel and Hamas, and it's based on the framework Donald Trump proposed, which means another thing you almost never hear, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I gotta give Donald Trump some props here, you know?
You hear that audience reaction? They booed him for that. He went on to kind of make jokes about other things that were absolutely had nothing to do with the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Peace Prize head of the group said, the chair, when asked about, why aren't you giving this to Trump, said, well, the deadline for nominations was January 31. Keep that in mind. January 31, just days into Trump's second term in office. In other words, all nominations Trump has earned this year for settling conflicts across the world are for their 2026 prize, maybe. Maybe. We're in 2025. So maybe in 2026 he'll get it. Maybe. But I want to point something out. And by the way, the woman they're giving it to, she is certainly deserving. Not going to deny that at all. She is a freedom fighter in Venezuela. She's under constant threat of assassination. She's fighting against the Venezuelan gangs and the government of Venezuela, trying to truly bring freedom. Maria Corina Machado. I praise the woman. I'm not taking anything away from her. What I'm pointing out here is the lies and how they shift things when it comes to what can we do to avoid giving it to Trump. The head of the Nobel Committee chair said, we made the decision Monday. We knew they were supposed to announce it today. But they said, oh, well, we made it Monday. And the head of it said, I don't think we've ever seen this type of campaign media attention. You know why? Because we look at your history. When you're saying we're giving this prize for what happened in 2024, or 5, I should say, in 5, and the Hamas peace agreement came here late, and it because they say our shutdown date was October. Well, yeah, we're in October, and you knew this was coming. And again, let me point out, they say the deadline to even nominate is January 31. Riddle me this. The 2009 Peace Prize was given to Barack Obama. It was announced December 2009. 2009. The deadline for the nominations would have been January 31 of that year. Obama was just in office 8 months or so, had really done nothing. And wouldn't you have been giving it for those things that had happened in 2008? You can't walk yourself out of this box. We're taping and sealing it shut and not going to let you out because you're a liar. Coming up, how do we protect free speech on the internet and yet also control it? Lock and load, ready on the right.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. You and I might have something in common, back pain. I can tell you where I go for help, Esquire Sports Medicine, the spine of St. Louis. They can put athletes back on the field so they can clearly help us. Esquire Sports Medicine, hands-on chiropractic help on Big Bend, just north of Highway 40, 314-644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as support dogs for our brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. Larry Connors here. Is your home ready for the chilly months ahead? Renewal by Andersen has a buy one, get one 50% off window event. And if you qualify, 18 months, no payments, zero interest. Not sure if it's the right time? Renewal makes it easy. No obligation window inspection. Just find out what new windows might cost when you're ready. No pressure, no hassle. And remember, no one but Renewal by Andersen can offer Fibrex, the proprietary window frame material, 200% stronger than vinyl. Means durability, efficiency, beauty that lasts every season. What are you waiting for? Call 877-WINDOWS or visit rbastl.com and get your consultation. Renewal by Andersen. Superior products, exceptional service.
This is News Talk STL.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Since Inauguration Day, there's been an orchestrated campaign of terrorism and violence against ICE officers. Of course, we saw the recent sniper attack against ICE officers. They're publishing their families' photos online. They're threatening them with murder, they're threatening them with death, and they're physically attacking them in the street each and every day. And yet, shamefully, the mayor and governor in Portland and Oregon have refused to render aid, leaving ICE officers to street fight every single night against these terrorists.
That's exactly what they've had to do. I mean, you're going to hear the left, the Antifa crowd, say ICE agents shouldn't be doing what they're doing. They're carrying out federal law to deport illegals. And if National Guard troops are sent in to help them, so be it. Because they're not getting any help from the local authorities. Perfect case on that made the other day in Chicago. You cannot ignore it. They want you to, but we're not going to let it pass. ICE officers get blocked in. They had a caravan trying to move somewhere. They got immediately surrounded by Antifa cars and protesters to the point where they couldn't even get out of their vehicle. And one woman pulled a rifle to shoot at one of the officers, and then a shot was returned. Nobody was killed, but that's the kind of level it's getting to. The police on the rooftops shooting down at the protesters are shooting basic rubber bullets, things that, could they hurt you? Yeah, they could. But it's not like trying to kill you, trying to disperse you and back you up, which is another point about in Chicago, that detention center. The Chicago city said you got to take down the perimeter temporary fencing you put up around your facility. In other words, we want the protesters to get closer to you. Why would you do that? You don't care about the lives of the law enforcement officers. And you won't allow your own police officers to respond to a call for officer in need of help. You're so shameful. But, of course, you don't have shame, do you? Thanks for joining us. Hour number 2, Larry Connors, USA. Here with you every Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. And every time you're going to get news, analysis, opinion, and education. I promise you, by the time we finish this hour, you will know more and have more education and knowledge than you do right now. Not to say you're not smart and intelligent, but I find little gems and pearls that you might have overlooked or you just heard a little bit about. It is an education show, not just me pontificating, although I'm pretty good at that, right? I mean, I'm born in Texas. I'm already born with BS degree to begin with. And I actually have a BS degree. Well, look at that, how the worlds came together. I mentioned the other day that I've had one journalism course when I was in college. Back then, the only one being offered was for print media. There's still some good things to be learned, but they didn't have the mass comm or whatever they call it now. They didn't have a radio station or a TV station as part of their training. None of that was available then. So I was focusing on law, actually, and politics. So that was my direction. But it served me well past that point as well. So you will get an education by the time we finish here. Later in this hour, trying to police hate speech on the internet. What can you do and how far can you go? I mean, it's one thing in the street to try to police it, and they can carry their signs, death to America, burning the U.S. flag. As long as they're not rioting and charging into ICE officers or threatening other law enforcement or civilians, they're basically allowed to, quote, exercise your First Amendment right until your fist hits my nose. that stops it. On the internet, they can hide behind anonymity. You don't even know who they are and put all kinds of stuff out there. I almost did. I almost slipped, I know. You need to listen every day because there might be a couple of days might have slipped. I don't know. Or will in the future. In broadcasting, there are those who have done something like that, and there are those who will. So you make the decision. But policing internet hate speech. I've got a guest coming up. He and his father actually put together this work called Gabriel Lock, Bound by Law. Talking about we're not trying to control the content. We're just trying to expose platforms to liability through the way they're using their algorithms. And that's coming up with my guest here shortly. Yeah, you're right. I'm teasing you. I'm trying to get you to listen longer. As well you should. And look at all you're going to learn. Once again, let's go back to Stephen Miller, White House aide, reference the National Guard.
There are also many other options the president has to deploy federal resources and assets under the U.S. military to Portland. But I was making the point that under federal law, Section Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has the authority anytime he believes federal resources are insufficient to federalize the National Guard to carry out a mission necessary for public safety. So it's important to understand that in Portland, ICE officers have been subjected to over 100 nights of terrorist assault, doxing, murder threats, violent attack, and every other means imaginable to try to overturn the results of the last election through violence. The most important point I want to make today is that the number 1 and 2 items in the GOP platform in 2024 were to turn back the border invasion and carry out the largest deportation program in American history.
That was their original intent. And they're just trying to round them up. Still carrying out that basic intent, that basic premise of what they campaigned on. Now, I did a very extensive piece in the first hour. Oh, you missed the first hour? Well, shame on you. Well, I know. You can't listen all the time. That is why we do provide podcasts. How do you get those? Well, you go to NewsTalkSTL podcast, LarryConnersUSA.com, Larry Connors USA Facebook, or any podcast form you want to choose. You search Larry Connors USA, you will find an opportunity of doing that. But I detailed how many different presidents, at least 8, all the way back to George Washington, where they had used the power of the Constitution to activate the National Guard and use them to protect people. One of them including Governor Wallace of Alabama. He had activated his National Guard in Alabama because he was not going to let black students into the classroom. JFK sent down Army troops and gave them authority over the National Guard of Alabama to enforce the right for those students to get in. In Chicago right now, there's a judge that's halted deployment, Chicago deployment, in a order from Chicago, a U.S. District Judge granting a temporary restraining order halting the Trump administration's deployment of National Guard troops in the state of Illinois for 2 weeks. Portland is also on hold, a 3-judge panel, 9th Circuit. They'll do whatever the lefties want anyway. And Trump's being blocked from federalizing the National Guard in Oregon to help protect the ICE officers. So they're going to do this as much as they can. National Guard troops have been seen patrolling in Memphis for the first time as of today. This is part of Trump's federal task force. Unclear how many National Guard units will be used. There was an NAACP Memphis forum Wednesday, and the Memphis police chief said, "I hope Guard personnel would direct traffic and have a presence in retail corridors." Did not say operate checkpoints or anything similar. The Memphis mayor, a Democrat, said, "I never requested the Guard to Memphis." But after Trump announced we are deploying them, the Republican governor of Tennessee said they want that task force to target violent offenders and make it clear that don't just be harassing and scaring the general public. They're not going to be doing that. If you're here illegally, you might be frightened. Maybe you have a reason to be, especially if you carried out gang activities against fellow citizens. So a CNN broadcaster had Stephen Miller on the program. He thought, I've got a gotcha question. I got a gotcha question. This is a question that I'm going to throw at him, and I'll catch him off guard. You watch me do this. Stand back. You do not know how big this is going to get. All I know is he got a KO punch from Stephen Miller.
Is potentially a problem in the future for Republicans if a Democratic president someday calls the National Guard to a red state over what they see as open rebellion, but is what amounts to a demonstration that gets rowdy. I mean, is that not a fear?
And they're posting pictures of their kids because it's a demonstration, and they have a sniper on top of a building firing a high-caliber rifle at a nice facility because it's a demonstration, and they are engaged in vehicle ramming.
But the National Guard isn't being sent to Texas.
Because it's a
the National Guard
demonstration.
isn't being sent to Dallas, where that sniper was.
Because the Dallas Police Department and the governor of Texas, well, you walked right into that one.
Oh, yeah.
Have responded to every call for assistance and help. They gave a stand-down order in Chicago, and they gave a stand-down order in Portland. Do you realize that there's 11,000 federal law enforcement officers in Oregon? That's larger than the size of the FBI. Local and state police are resourced to deal with this kind of riotous assembly, but they have refused. They've been given a stand-down order. So
they've arrested some 70 people since June. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They were refuting what you're saying outright.
We literally have the 911 audio of the stand-down order in Chicago, and we have documented inside of DHS every single unresponded to 911 call over the recent weeks and months.
But they have not sent National Guard troops to Texas because the Texas governor is already using his National Guard to help protect ICE agents. And every police agency, even if it's in a blue city, they're being given orders, you better step in when you're called. Back to peace in the Middle East. This weekend will be very important to actually get the arrangement signed. Israel's already withdrawn some from Gaza, 53% pullback to quote a yellow line. Hamas is supposed to turn over all the hostages, although Netanyahu says they may all be dead, or we might not get some of the dead back. But Trump is looking forward to try to move forward.
I want to thank the countries that helped me put this together: Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and so many others. So many people fought so hard. This is a big day. We'll see how it all turns out. We have to get the final word down and concrete. Very importantly, I look forward to having the hostages come home to their parents and having some of the hostages, unfortunately, you know the condition they're in, come home likewise to their parents, because their parents wanted them just as much as though that young man or young woman were alive. So I just want to let you know that this is a very special day, maybe unprecedented in many ways. It is unprecedented. But thank you all, and thank you all to those great countries that helped. We were given a tremendous amount of help. Everybody was unified in wanting this war to end and seeing peace in the Middle East. And we're very close to achieving that. Thank you all, and everybody will be treated fairly.
When that word came out the other day, last night, as a matter of fact, there was jubilation in the streets of Jerusalem, understandably, and all over Israel. Young men and women, and probably olders as well, out in the streets celebrating, shouting, waving the U.S. flag along with the Israeli flag. And then in Gaza, in the midst of Hamas-controlled territory, even with Hamas still in place. Young men in particular out in the streets celebrating joyously that the war has come to an end. They did not want to fight the war. They did not want to continue it. And they were afraid they were either going to be sent to the front, or I should say, used as a shield against any incoming rounds, or they would end up dying in some other way as the war continued, or their family. And they were celebrating. But Netanyahu is implying that remains of some of the dead hostages may not be returned. It's still not clear if they would be held or if they can't find them. Maybe they've been buried somewhere and it's been blasted over so many times. I don't know. I want all the living ones out, and I want them that are living 2 days ago when this was announced, still alive today and this weekend. Secretary of War Hegseth made an announcement that I have a little misgiving about. The Pentagon has agreed to host a new Qatari Air Force facility in Idaho, saying Qatari played a core part in securing the Gaza peace deal. I don't know if this was a quid pro quo, but they are basically going to allow the Qatari Air Force facility at the Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho, allowing pilots to train on Qatari F-15 fighter jets. He said it will reflect the depth of the U.S.-Qatari defense partnership. Speaking to the Qatari defense minister, he said, we're grateful for the great partnership we have, and we want to continue. We have U.S. fighters all over the world and our troops as well. I'm not saying that this is jeopardizing our national security by allowing them to come in here and fly fighter jets. I assume they will not be armed, but if they're running training missions to bombing and strafing, they will be armed. I hope they do a very good job of vetting those that they're going to be allowed to fly. You get my understanding, don't you? Coming up, how do you reduce hate on the internet without violating free speech? Big question. Is there an answer? Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington, always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 644-4930. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. Another day must be another roofer in town. And John Beal and I were talking. He said, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it. And we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. I've got a great evening planned for you. We start with dining at the Oak Street Inn Lounge in Cottleville. We enjoy sunset on the rooftop, then down to the speakeasy. Just one visit, you're going to see why I'm always talking about the Oak Street Inn and Lounge. Plus, you might want to plan a staycation, a romantic getaway. Check out oakstreetinandlounge.com for various events this summer. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
It is clear that since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, we have seen more criticism on the internet multiplied over and over, lies, distortion, hate-filled statements. And in Rutgers University, which I'll talk about in our next segment, they are pushing around a petition to get Turning Point USA off the campus, saying it's causing fear and intimidation. Turning Point USA? Remember when Charlie Kirk was shot? How many cars got turned over? How many buildings got looted? How much violence took place in the street? How many buildings were set on fire? The only flames you saw were at candlelight vigils. There's no comparison. My guest and his father are the authors of a book called Gabriel Locke, Bound by Law. We'll get into details of exactly how that fits with the title and the subject, but basically they're looking at fixing the internet. How do you reduce the hate on the internet without violating free speech? My guest, I've got the son, Humberto Cancillo. Did I say that right, Humberto?
Yes, you did. You did very well. But I just want to tell you, Larry, I am the father.
Oh, wow.
my son is my co-author.
And I'm sorry I got the word that Humberto was going to do it. So what would you do, pull the dad trick and send him out to go run an errand?
Yeah, of course.
Well, anyway, I'm glad to have either one of you. As I pointed out, the two of you have been writing this book.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Now, you point out that while we should not control the content of what is written on the internet, we can expose platforms to liability through their use of algorithms. Let's begin there.
All right. Well, in 1996, they passed the Decency Act for the internet, and that had contained Section 230. The original idea was to keep the internet as a forum for everybody to express themselves, which I think is a wonderful idea.
Right.
However, algorithms, sophisticated ones, had not been developed, so nobody could really expect what was to happen. And with the advent of making money on the internet, companies developed the algorithms to be able to repeat things and charge advertisers accordingly. So what happens is that the internet is really dominated by these algorithms. You can put something up on the internet, and if an algorithm doesn't pick it up, well, nobody will ever see it.
Right.
So when you analyze a litigation for defamation, which is the way I think we control it, you have two actors. First, the person who creates the lie, and the second one is the person who repeats the lie. So while I agree that the forums don't have necessarily control over what is put on there, they have absolute control over what is repeated. And that's where I think that we should change Section 230 and make them liable on the basis of what their algorithms tell.
That's a very interesting point. Yeah. It's that. Therefore, it's not infringing necessarily on free speech. Just repeating a lie past that. It's still some gray area there.
Yes, it is. It is a gray area, but I think it's the way to attack it. The same thing happens when you publish a book and it contains lies.
Right.
The publisher becomes liable when they publish the book and sell millions of copies. And according to the amount they repeat it, their liability grows. So using exactly the same idea that we've used for centuries that has maintained free speech, we just apply it to the internet through the algorithms.
Well, I've been in broadcasting for several decades. Well, I mean, even before I got into broadcasting, I mean, all I know is when the Conestoga wagon came to a stop, I jumped off and got into journalism. So I go back a little ways. And I'm all about free speech, as I know you are as well. I understand the value of 230 of the Communications Decency Act. I understand giving them protection from suit and libel if folks are posting it. Well, if you're a paper, you are obviously watching what is sent in, and you can stop it from going on. But if someone posts something inane or stupid on the internet, even a direct lie, you can't go after them because someone else made that mistake. You agree with that, right?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that, as a matter of fact, the counter to that is let's make a law that nothing except pornography, obviously, and calling to murder, it can be eliminated from the internet. That way, conservative voices can't be suppressed. So let's pass, let's amend it that way too, so that anybody can put whatever they want. However, it'll be a tree in the middle of a forest, because unless an algorithm picks it up, it goes nowhere.
You can point out also that posts containing the words Hitler and Trump get repeated more often, and then you go back to making a point that the old saying in news was, good news doesn't sell newspapers. So that's what they want to do for their advertisers. Keep stirring the pot, getting more people come in. Clickbait, as we call it.
Right. So you want to get money, you pay for it by getting hit with defamation. It's that simple. It's the balance. It's the checks and balances. So let's put a check on it and balance the internet so that the lies and the distortions don't proliferate.
Now, of course, they are operating free of the constructs built around print media and broadcast media. I mean, if I call someone and I put them on the air, or if they call in, if I open up the lines for call-in, then we have to be ready with a dump button if they start saying something that's inane or certainly violation. But I can say what I want till the station throws me off. And as far, I wish I had not brought that subject up. I'm afraid the bosses might listen to that. But the other part here is the internet companies they're going to be an open forum, public soapbox. Anybody can come up and say anything, and you cannot hold them responsible because you're trying to allow everyone an opportunity to speak.
Right. But what's worse, they do put their hand into it when they start repeating whatever they want to be repeated and suppressing what they don't. So there is where we draw the line. Say, no, you can't do that. It's either an open forum or it's not.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you start suppressing and you start repeating, it's no longer an open forum, and you're doing it for money, so you have consequences.
I have a couple other questions on this, but I don't want to get too deep without talking about your book, Gabriel Locke, Bound by Law. Give me the background for that title and what exactly is it?
Okay, so my son and I had been apart for many years. He was living in one state, I was living in the other. Very quickly, we wanted to do something together. So I came up with some ideas, and he said, "You know what? Let's write about the interesting cases in your career." I've been an attorney for coming in November, 47 years. So I said, "Okay, let's do that." So I began telling him about all my cases, and we took the ones we liked. And so we decided to create Gabriel Locke. He's a young attorney in Miami, Florida in the 1980s. It's a 7-book series. The first one is in 1981. And what it does is it takes the reader through the first year of the career of a young lawyer practicing civil law. And what it does is it really opens the door to how the whole legal system works. We got away from the Hollywood tropes of drunk lawyer, womanizer, shady character. You know, there's a lot of really good people that are lawyers out there, and you never see them get portrayed. And you get to feel what the people feel as they're going through the litigations.
Now,
Gabriel's
not referencing a person or name, Gabriel Locke, correct?
The Gabriel Locke is the main character.
Okay, in your book, all right. You, basically.
Yeah, in my book. No, this is not an autobiography.
Right.
Okay? Gabriel Locke is a much better person than I am.
But bound by law. Now I fully understand it. Well, that's great. I know several lawyer friends who would like to read it and some that should be reading it. Well, before we close out here in the last... Go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, the communications is breaking up.
I said I know several attorneys. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you know, it's a book that really tells people about how a lawyer thinks, how they decide, how the client feels, what the judges do, what they really do, how you pick a jury. I mean, it goes through all of it. It's not an instruction book.
Right.
It is very much a story.
Right.
But it does go through all those things, and it also is to the backdrop of Miami in the '80s. So somebody at Barnes and Noble has called the book John Grisham meets Miami Vice.
I was going to say Miami Vice. Well, and I'll add a footnote to it. I at one time was pursuing a law degree until I realized that professors don't understand me skipping their class to cover a fire while I was in journalism. Once again, David Cancillo and his son Humberto, Gabriel Locke, Bound by Law. We'll do this again, sir.
I would love to. It's been a pleasure, I assure you.
Thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it. Coming up, the left continues to push lies, and you can't wait to hear this one.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
We welcome Tom Shaw Realtors, selling, buying, leasing property all over Missouri, almost 100 years. Call Tom, 314-283-5064, shawrealtors.com. Hey, looking for windows that solve your problems and actually add value to your home? Renewal by Anderson. Anderson products increase your home value by at least 15%. Right now, get $329 off every window, $729 off every patio or entry door, and ask about our zero interest plan for 3 years. Renewal by Anderson, the full-service replacement division of Anderson. That's a name you've trusted for more than 122 years. Renewal by Anderson has FiberX frames, 20% stronger than vinyl, built to last. It's why we have more 5-star reviews than anyone in St. Louis. And only Renewal by Anderson backs it up with the nation's best warranty. Schedule your complimentary consultation, rbastl.com, or call 877-WINDOWS, 877-WINDOWS. Renewal by Anderson, superior products, exceptional service. You've worked hard for your money, so protect it. Meet my friend Bob Leslie and ask about the Gain and Retain Plan. Leslie Consulting, 40 years in the St. Louis area as a leader in brokerage and risk management. Call 314-721-0066, 721-0066. Oh, and ask Bob how he was the L.A. Dodger #1 pick. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is NewsTalkSTL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
This is Ms. Spanberger's time. I have a follow-up question for Ms. Spanberger. Would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy requiring boys and girls to use bathrooms aligning with their biological sex? You have 30 seconds.
My priority would be to ensure that local communities, importantly parents and teachers and educators, are able to work together to meet the unique needs of each school and each community. And that is important. And I say that as a mother of 3 daughters in Virginia public schools, and as someone who used to investigate crimes against children. The way that we keep our children safe is by ensuring they are safe in schools, which includes funding law enforcement and public safety.
But Ms. Spanberger, the question was, would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy requiring boys and girls to use bathrooms aligning with their biological sex? You have 15 seconds to clarify that question.
Second chance.
My answer is that in each local community, decisions should be made between parents and educators and teachers in each community. It shouldn't be dictated by politicians.
That is a debate taking place between former Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, the one who could not come up with a yes or no question. Do you still want boys to have access to girls' restrooms and dressing facilities? She's a Democrat nominee for governor in Virginia. Why do the Democrats want to die on this hill of letting men posing as girls participate not only in sports, but go into their locker rooms? Hey, I'm going to be honest. I'll be very honest with you here. When I was a teenage boy, if you gave me access to a girl's dressing room, I'm a sinful person. Yeah, I was going to go in it. Come on. I'm being honest with you. I remember specifically one guy's telling me, hey, he said, there's a way we could get up above the room and drill a little hole and see. I want in no part of that. But if you're going to allow me to walk through, and I'm claiming today that I'm feeling kind of girlish. I had mentioned in the preceding hour of a male in a college that is playing on a sports team, posing as a woman, has not gone through transsexual surgery, walking through the ladies' locker room while they're changing, sometimes trying to help hide each other behind towels they hold up. He's walking through totally nude, everything hanging out, with an erection. Would you want your daughter exposed to such filth like that? Yeah, you're right. I did mention that I would deal with that if it happened to my daughter, and that guy would not be having such an erection in the future. I'll promise you that. But here was former Congresswoman of Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, running for governor, and she's being questioned by the Republican candidate for governor, who's current lieutenant governor, Winsome Earl Sears. And she will not concede. Sears even at one point, do you want nude women in locker rooms? Are you going to change in a gym where men are nude? She asked Spanberger that. The answer, well, I have a plan where everybody, there's no plan. And she said, I have 3 daughters, and I believe we'll get the police in and protect. Well, why don't you start with your authority you have and say, you're not allowed in. I don't need to send police unless you're trying to break your way into the girl's room. And we would charge you for doing it. But Spanberger, she's also so lefty, she's still endorsing Democrat Attorney General candidate, the guy who wants to be the next top lawmaker in Virginia, Jay Jones. He's the guy I told you about the other day that a couple of years ago put out text messages about killing one of a political opponent he didn't like. 2 bullets to the head, and kill his children and let them die in their mother's arms. Now that the texts have been made public, he said, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But he never offered any apology or backed out until they became public. And he wouldn't be doing it now except they're public. And he's realizing it could cost me the election. But damn it, I cannot insist enough. Spanberger and other Democrats had not withdrawn their endorsements for him. Every one of them should say, I don't want anything to do with you. But again, they picked the strangest hills to die on. Cory Booker, Senator Cory Booker has given his support to him, has not withdrawn it. Hakeem Jeffries got asked the other day, and he just kind of walked around the question. That's the way they do. I mentioned earlier at Rutgers University, they are now trying to disband, not the university, but a group that signed a petition, disband the school's Turning Point USA chapter. On what grounds? Well, the Change.org petition accuses the Turning Point USA chapter of, quote, promoting hate speech and inciting violence against our community. Example? I'm sorry, you want an example? They don't have one. They don't have one. Charlie Kirk, there's no evidence that he ever preached hate, racism. He did preach from the Bible, men shall not lay with men, and God is a creator, and once the egg is fertilized, that's a baby. That's a life. If you consider that hate speech, you've got bigger issues you should be dealing with. But these folks that were running around signing it, they realized that one of those who had signed on to kind of boost it and at the same time boot TPUSA is an associate professor of religion at Rutgers. You would think, that's the problem. They don't think. You would think that a professor of religion recognizes everything Charlie Kirk said was based upon biblical writings and statements. He didn't call for killing anyone. He called for everyone to come together. He didn't call anyone that stood in front of him by names. He just said, I think you need to get more education because you're not getting it here, listening to your complaints. The response from Rutgers, we're committed to providing a secure environment. Yeah. And upholding the rights of students and faculty to free speech and academic freedom. So are you now saying that you will let Turning Point USA stay on campus? No, they're not commenting on that. Not on any specific personnel or student conduct matters, because that would be against what we do. Well, I thought you just said you would protect the students and you would stand for academic freedom and free speech. So you lie. That's what you're telling me. Yeah, you lie. I got it. Rutgers University, you get it. If you get your degree from Rutgers, just understand it's written on tissue paper. You know where that should be going. But you'll have some alumni, I'm sure, that will gather with you. You can all have a meeting in the same toilet room where they store the toiletries and other things. You know what happened over Yom Kippur holidays involving Jews who work for the far left Washington Post? It wasn't just Jews, but I will tell you, behind it, the scenes, I will bet they targeted the Jews. But we got to throw some other people in there with it as well, so it doesn't look like we're doing what we're doing. They ended up firing several of them, while the staffers who were Jews were observing Yom Kippur, the holy holiday. They fired more than half a dozen. Now, if they know more than half a dozen, I hate terminology like that. If you know it's 7, 8, or 9, or 10, well, state that. State that. But they point out that among those shown the door was Pulitzer recipient David Hoffman, listed by the New York Post as a longtime contributing editor and Washington Post editorial board member, also Jewish. But they didn't put that in there. But they fired him. They also kicked out Heather Long, a columnist, a media writer, Jack Schaefer, that some don't like anyway. Washington Post opinion editor Adam O'Neill wrote in an email adding that, please know this decision was not made lightly and came after careful consideration of many factors, including the evolving needs of the paper. This piece appeared in Breitbart, and they made a point that, at CNN, not as many N's when they write it, and CBS News, no one ever gets fired. Well, they are wrong about that. They did fire Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo. But they still have Jake Tapper, Brian Stelter, who lied, Wolf Blitzer, Abby Phillip, Dana Bash. CNN still has Leslie Stahl, who, Mr. President, there was no laptop conspiracy. That was a lie, and we don't publish lies. There went the gold standard of 60 Minutes at that point. The Republican administration, I should say, when I say administration, I withdraw that. That suggests the White House. This is not done by the White House. It's done by a conservative group trying to point out that what's happening with this government shutdown right now and who should be blamed. Well, God, if you listen to the left, there's only one party to blame. That would be the GOP. This little ad that they've got spreading around says otherwise.
The party of open borders, transgender for everybody, lawlessness in our streets are shutting down the government in an effort to appease the radical left. These Democrats are coordinating their strategy with outside leftist groups and are demanding nearly $1.5 trillion in spending for an agenda that includes healthcare for illegal aliens and much, much more. Democrats for years have railed against government shutdowns, claiming a shutdown would mean much chaos and pain and needless heartache for the American people. Democrats are out of control, and you know who it hurts?
You, everyday people, and the most vulnerable. Seniors, veterans, working families, hungry kids, y'all.
Tell Congress to avoid the Democrat-led government shutdown.
And yeah, there are going to be some people in there that could be hurt. I care about federal employees who are just doing their job. That's a job, a job. That's where they got hired on. They have some protections. They have some benefits. And they have a mortgage and have a family to care for. And they can be as left as they want, but if they're doing the exact job, I don't care. They're entitled to their opinions, but not on the job and not using the power of their job to harass or go after decent Americans who simply believe in life, liberty, and freedom. Schumer wants to continue to blame the Republicans. And there was an offer the other day that, look, you guys want to keep the Obamacare package going. What if we go ahead and extend it 1 year? There's an offering. That'll be good for you, right? Well, no, now we want something else. And a Corvette to boot. Here's where the rubber hits the road. No pun referencing Corvette, by the way. Reductions in force are underway. All federal employees typically receive back pay as soon as a shutdown ends. But the Office of Management and Budget has circulated a memo stating Back pay is not guaranteed for this furlough. And the OMB director, Russ Voigt, posted, RIFs have begun. Reduction in force. Typically, you don't shut them down, but they're doing it, and they're not going to be paid, and they may not even have a job to go back to. Mass firings are underway. And, of course, numerous agencies are realizing we don't really need them. Let's shut them down. All they're doing is regulating something that we don't need regulated. Democrats, led by Schumer, you stepped in it. Ooh, you stepped in it big time. So what'd you learn this hour? All right, classes in recess until next Monday. And remember our pledge, one nation under God.